Hi, I'm Craig Grant. It's a cold day and this is Cobweb Maths. Today I'm going to tell you about the exam students first, then I'm going to explain to you how long-term memory works and how you can use long-term memory based material on this site to become smarter. This is life-changing information. You need to know it. Now, at my last school, 3 students I didn't teach asked me to help them pass the school certificate maths exam. They were 45%ers. I gave them my school certificate revision tape and they dubbed off their own copies. It was gathering dust at the time. That's another story. We won't go into it. They became 70%ers in the exam. And I was quite surprised, so I went and saw them the next year, at the beginning of the next year, and asked them how they'd done it. And they told me it was the tape, and they were very adamant about that. And it took me quite a while to figure out why the tape was so effective. There are 3 factors involved. The long-term memory factor is the most important one. I'll tell you about the other 2 first. There's a thing I call the Treadmill Effect that happens with tapes. Once the tape starts running, students get hooked into it, alright? And this is what happened when they were revising with the tape. They'd turn the tape on, they'd get hooked in, and they would just listen and concentrate for 30 minutes because it was 30 minutes aside for the tape. And the tape had 2 sides, so they got 60 minutes of concentrated revision. Alright, the tape went like this. The inside angles of a triangle add up to 180 degrees. Angles at a point add up to 360 degrees. The reciprocal of 5 is 1/5, and so on. Now, here's the second factor. What happened is they're sitting, concentrating, and they're under pressure to come up with the answers, you see. And all they have to do is just sit there and listen and think up the answers. If they don't get the answer, it's told to them. And all they did was they'd sit down repeatedly and listen to the tape until it was all there, embedded in their long-term memory. Now, there's an exam training element. Listening to the tape helped the students cope with exam pressure. And if you can cope with exam pressure, you're going to get better marks. You're going to get up to your potential. You'll get your full potential. Now I'm going to explain the long-term memory factor. This is the way it works. Our short-term working memory can only store about 5 to 7 items at a time, no matter how brilliant you are. The only way to move beyond that is to have knowledge in long-term memory. Listening to the revision tape repeatedly placed essential knowledge into the student's long-term memory so that it was instantly accessible, and that made them smarter. Now, there's another thing you need to know. Practicing problem-solving processes repeatedly places knowledge in long-term memory as well. Now, when I was teaching, I trained my lower stream students in class to do lots of problems to embed the process in their long-term memory. It's like training. Now, when you do that, they can do as well as the top students. On my site, you will find basic tests that are designed to embed problem-solving processes into students' long-term memory. Okay? However, for students to do this, they need to do the test repeatedly. That's what you do. You just do it repeatedly and you get it embedded into your long-term memory. All right? You'll find a series of tests that will do this in trig triangles. If you do these tests repeatedly, they'll be highly effective. Now I'm going to mention another factor, which is the spatial dimension. I'm just throwing my notes away. So let's hope I get this one right. It works like this. The long-term memory has a spatial dimension. What I do is I train my students to set their work out. All right, they set it out a certain way and I use foolproof processes so they don't make mistakes. Now, when they do this stuff repeatedly, it goes into long-term memory, and there's a spatial dimension there in long-term memory. So the question looks right. It's got a look about it. It's line by line, the lines are lined up, and each line is a step. And they just got to learn the steps and learn how to set it out, and they'll get it right. And it's a bit like driving a car. You practice driving a car, then you drive a car without thinking about it. If you train your students well, you can give them the question, and they'll just sit down and do it without hardly even thinking about it, because they know the way to set it out, and they know the steps. So just learn the steps 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, like when you hop into a car, you just turn on the key and start the motor. Of course, you got to make sure it's in neutral first if it's not an automatic, and so on, and then you put the clutch in, and so on and so forth. But you just do that automatically without specifically thinking about it. So when you do repeated practice, you get in that state of mind where you just do it with hardly about thinking about it. And we're done. But you want to do what I said, all right? Have a look at some of my stuff.